Dr. Lucy Norcliffe Kaufmann is Assistant Professor in Neuroscience at the New York University School of Medicine. She trained with the Autonomic Disorders Rare Disease Consortium, an NIH-sponsored collaborative project. Her work focuses on rare autonomic disorders, including familial dysautonomia and multiple system atrophy. She's going to give us an update now on another one of the projects funded by the MSA Coalition that is a unique collaborative partnership between researchers at the Medical University of Innsbruck in Austria, Vanderbilt University in Tennessee, and New York University. Please welcome Dr. Lucy Norcliffe Kaufmann.
Thank you. To advance the slides, I press this one. Thank you very much. Can you all hear me okay? Great. Let me tell you, first of all, what a really great privilege and it is to be here today and to be funded by the MSA Coalition to be able to do this work. I'm going to talk very briefly about a project we have to create a global MSA registry, GLOMSA. We were funded by the MSA Coalition to perform an international collaborative project. And the real goal of this project is to help patients and help facilitate clinical research in MSA. And our project really has two aims. The first aim is to build a global patient contact registry dedicated to MSA. And the second is to provide the definitive natural history of the disease. Of course, there are a good number of small studies telling us about the natural history, but we believe it's really important to put together strength in numbers to reiterate what Dr. Karana said and really provide the definitive natural history of the disease. I'm going to focus today primarily on the first aim of our project, which is to build the International Global Registry for MSA patients. So I hope by the end of my talk, I'll be able to convince you on why we actually need a global international registry for MSA. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit about our progress since we've been funded by the MSA Coalition and what we've been working on. And finally, I want to touch upon some of the hurdles that we still need to overcome, which I believe we will do. So as you've heard already today many times, MSA is a rare disease. It's a sporadic disease. There's no known gender, ethnic, or racial susceptibilities, and as such, the cases are geographically spread. And these factors together combine to create a great obstacle when it comes to recruiting enough patients to sufficiently power clinical trials. So our plan with GLOMSA is really to build an infrastructure so that ultimately we'll be able to assemble a sizable cohort of MSA patients that are willing and eligible so that we can test the best possible therapies that are available. Because of the rarity of MSA, there's no single institution, and in many cases no single country, that has a sufficient number of patients to be able to adequately power, and by I mean power, include enough people to be able to really test whether a disease works, or whether a treatment works or it doesn't in a clinical trial. And in this situation, the Office of Rare Diseases of the National Institutes of Health recommends the formation of a global rare disease registry, strength in numbers. So what is a patient registry? Well, registries are infrastructure that exists to be able to facilitate research projects. They're not actual research projects in and of themselves. They're a method by which patients can register in order to be contacted about future research opportunities and receive updates about the ongoing progress of different research projects into the disease. They're anonymous and free of charge, and they consist of multiple clinical consortia working together to conduct research in MSA, multiple groups combining to look at the same thing together. One of the consortiums that we're part of is the Autonomic Disorders Consortium, which was founded in 2009, and it consists of researchers, physicians, nurses, patients, and support groups. And it's dedicated to understanding and treating rare autonomic disorders, including multiple system atrophy. And it's a national collaborative effort. So our Autonomic Disorders Consortium in North America consists of Mayo Clinic, Vanderbilt University in Tennessee, Intramural NIH, Boston, Harvard, MGH University with Dr. Freeman, and our site at MSA. And one of the projects within our Autonomic Disorders Consortium is a natural history study, which is focused at NYU. And here at NYU, we collect the clinical data from all of these sites, and we feed them into a natural history study to understand the clinical progression and the main features of MSA. Our European counterpart is the European MSA Study Group, and this was founded in 1999, and it's a European collaborative effort. And there are multiple sites throughout Europe, including in England, Wales, and all over Europe. So we have, and the European Multiple System Atrophy Group is centered at Innsbruck University in Austria, and all of the various different sites across Europe feed their information into the Innsbruck site. So, to steal a line from one of my favorite books, there's of course strength in numbers. One for one and one for all, united we stand, divided we fall. So we came up with the idea of uniting both international MSA consortia to produce a global consortium by linking NYU here and the Innsbruck University site. So back in 2013, we invited Gregor Wenning and Florian Chrismer, who is a young investigator at Innsbruck University working in MSA, to come to NYU and consider the possibility of uniting the two big MSA research consortia. And we came up with the idea of the GLOSSIMA, the Global MSA Registry. And in December 2013, that project was funded by the MSA Coalition. And since then, we've been busy with a number of different aspects of this project. We've created the case report forms to collect the data. We've established an infrastructure for storing that data. And now we're ready to take this show on the road, and we're going to the MSA Roadmap meeting to help try and convince other collaborators to become involved in this project. So let me tell you briefly about our first step, which was what we did. We've sat down together and we've come up with a minimal data set, a minimal series of things that we want to collect from patients to be able to understand the disease. And we've standardized not only the data that we want to collect, but also the terminology and the vocabulary we use, so that even though we speak multiple languages, we're all on the same page. And what we've done is we've created what we call case report forms, so that researchers can go into the laboratory when they're seeing a patient with MSA and work through a series of forms so that we're all collecting the data in a standardized fashion to be able to use for research. So I'm going to tell you a little bit now, briefly, about the minimal data set. Well, the first thing we really want from people is the contact information. As I said, an important part of this registry is being able to contact patients. And of course, we have to make sure that data is anonymous and unique so that we're not violating any privacy issues. And first, we want to really define about the onset of MSA, the age, what were the first symptoms that appeared, and when the person was actually diagnosed. We want to collect information about the clinical features of the disease, including the motor parts of the disease and the non-motor parts of the disease, like the autonomic dysfunction that occurs in many patients. And we also want to know about whether the patient expresses more of the Parkinsonian features or more of the cerebellar features. We want to collect information about the family history to see if there's any family history of ataxias or other neurological diseases, and about the kind of treatment that the patient has received so far, and score disease severity so that we can follow that over time. And then we want to be able to create a place where we know that there's other research data collected so that we can go in if other researchers come up with ideas of things that they want to look at. For example, MRI scans. We want to know, okay, we have X number of patients with X number of MRI scans available, and be able to unite all this clinical information to be able to answer some of the pressing research questions. So this is where what we have with our minimal data set. And this is what the case report forms look like. So we've whittled them down to 2 pages, which we think is going to be a doable process for the clinician working with the patient to be able to go through so that it's not so exhausting. The second step we've accomplished is creating a database to house the minimal data set. And we're using the Electronic Research Data Capture System, which is abbreviated to REDCap, which is available throughout the world. You see here a map here of the world with all the different sites that use the REDCap database. So we wanted to create a platform that multiple countries can access and use. So those are our steps that we've accomplished so far, but of course there's still more hurdles that we need to clear in order to be able to recruit patients into this registry. And one of the quotes that I found very telling in reading about this is that the biggest hurdle for a plan for a global registry are not technical issues, but rather the cultural obstacles to collaboration and data sharing across academic institutions and how different countries handle this. So this is one of the problems we're grappling with at the moment. How can we convince all the other sites to join the project and make sure that they are in good stead with their own country's rules for being able to share this research data? So at the moment, we're working with the United States and the EU's safe harbor principles to make sure that we comply. And there are 7 principles that exist to protect personal data in research. So we're making sure that our database right now fulfills all these 7 criteria. And these exist to prevent the disclosure or inappropriate loss of data. So that's where we are, and that's the hurdle we're trying to clear at the moment. Of course, our ambitions for our GLOMSA registry are really to be able to define the natural history of MSA and be able to link some of the clinical phenotypic data, meaning how the disease expresses in a patient, with some of the things that you've heard about today, some of the biorepository information. Our overall long-term goal for the database is really to be able to create a system in which we can relay research discoveries back to the MSA community. We want to be able to aid the recruitment so that we can speedily put together people that want to participate in clinical trials so that we can do these clinical trials quickly and find out whether these treatments are useful or not on a worldwide scale. We want to be able to link our biospecimen data, things you've heard about, like taking a skin biopsy or other samples of DNA or other information that we have in biorepository stores, and be able to link that with the phenotypic features of the patient. How fast did they progress, whether they show the cerebellar form or the Parkinsonian forms, so we can really link some of these areas together. We want to find out about the phenotypic studies. We want to find out other associations, what defines outcomes. And in the same way, we want to look at treatment effectiveness. Which standard of care therapies produce the biggest benefit for the patient's daily activities of living and quality of life. And finally, we want to be able to really work together to be able to understand the natural history of MSA, because if we understand the natural history of MSA, we can understand how treatments that we're doing impact the progression of the disease, which is our ultimate goal, to be able to change that. So we think that we're well on our way to meeting our timeline goals to create the international registry for patients with MSA. We want to emphasize that it's an international collaborative effort that should facilitate future clinical research in MSA, and our goal is to expand to other areas throughout the US and also to Asia, Australia, and South America. So I thank you very much. for your time. And I want to thank, first of all, the Autonomic Disorders Consortium, which is a consortium that has funded my work and been able to allow us to think about this registry. The Office of Rare Diseases, which funds our Autonomic Disorders Consortium, and to the MSA Coalition, who I'm incredibly grateful for the funding. Thank you very much.
Wait right here. You get your hug too. Thank you. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.